conference, anti-aging conference. We can do that.
So what would people like, question and answer, or to hear Bernd's report on the anti-aging conference? Bernd, you're on, Bernd.
She was there. No, she was there. Susan was there. She was with. We would just played around. That's it.
Yeah.
No.
No, but don't tell his wife.
That's right. What do you want to know? Oh, you know, it's funny. I was talking to a lot of doctors there. We had a booth, and basically I was there for a cardiologist that had a new compound, patent compound, on stopping blood clot and coagulation, and it has much more functions because it lowers pi1, which is probably the most important measurement we can do on ourselves to know if we're going to have cancer, diabetes, or heart disease, or MS, or any form of dementia, and it's called pi1, PA1. Most doctors don't even know what that is, and it's interesting that they don't understand how this works. So Vasculex is a compound using vitamin K, all the forms of vitamin K, as well as all the feverfew, which is the most important anti-inflammatory compound. And if you look up the National Cancer Institute, it also has anti-tumor mechanism, and it stops stem cells from migrating in cancer. So that's another thing. And then using a compound called Plasmanex. Plasmanex is much more potent than nattokinase, and the combination does work. And he's done clinical studies and shown that it really reduces pi1 virtually in all types of cases. And once you reduce that, it's more important with pi1 than homocysteine or C-reactive protein. So that was very exciting, you know, to talk to doctors, and some of them, Philip Miller is well aware of this, and he works in that field more than anybody else, so he understands the mechanism of pi1. So if you need a good doctor, Philip Miller, who is a member of Smart Life, who will be coming back here hopefully, we probably spend a lot of time together. The other thing is that was very interesting when talking to doctors. You know, they don't, you know, there's the diet, the high protein, low carbs, high carbs, low, and basically at the, I have an MS patient who you'll see on January 28th. I'm going to be giving a lecture on energy and medicine and mitochondrial function. He totally went from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane to walking almost perfectly normal. And it's all based on dietary, how he did it, and supplementation and energy medicine. So that was exciting because most foods today are high in inflammatory markers, and one of them is wheat. Wheat is very genetic modified, and that causes an inflammatory condition, but it also increases inflammatory markers in the gut, and that's a big thing. Another thing that everybody thinks about anti-aging, let me tell you, the world foremost expert in this field in telomerase is Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn. I had a chance to talk to her one time at a big conference that she gave, and one of the things she said is, and which is true, and Mahda Shafari, who I introduced to Susan, she's a brilliant scientist from UC Irvine who does a lot of longevity research on plants, and we're going to have her up here one day and speak. She's already invited my conference at the Health Freedom in March, so she's going to try to make that, and that's in Long Beach. But one of the things is that everybody thinks that telomerase is the key to anti-aging. Actually, Elizabeth Blackburn, who got a Nobel Award in her field of discovering the telomerase enzyme, says opposite. It doesn't cause longevity. It's actually a marker for cancer. Cancers need telomerase to continue growing. And Aubrey de Grey, who I spent about 5-6 hours in a bar, that's the only way you can talk to him, who's got the longest beer I ever seen in my life, and who only drinks, you know, Mahda Shavari doesn't think much of him, but he agrees in the sense that we don't want to increase telomerase in everybody because it is a marker of cancer and aging. So people who are spending a fortune on TA65 totally are wasting their money. And even she said the same thing. This is a Nobel laureate woman who I spoke to. I said, so how do you maintain health? And she said, one thing, I watch my diet, I don't overeat, and I exercise correctly, and I stay off stress. That's virtually the key thing. And I talked to Magda Shafari quite a bit because we go back and forth a lot on emails and on the phone. And one of the papers I presented 10, 15 years was on aging. And the actual evidence is that I interviewed 24 people that lived 90 to 100, and there's an important marker called the FOXO gene, F-O-X-O. If you have the right sequence of the genetics called the CC next to the FOXO, I don't care what you do. Smoke, drink, do everything you want because you will live 100 years old. That is the only true marker gene that allows you to live that long. But those who don't have that, we have to look at lifestyle. And lifestyle is more than a vitamin, a mineral, and anything like that. And Magda has done presentation after presentation in conferences all over the world that is lifestyle and stress that is the number 1, 2 markers in aging and cancer and every disease. And so listening to everybody and they're all trying to find the right vitamin, mineral, and all that, no, it wasn't that. And a lot of doctors have stated that there is no one magic pill. If you can sleep 6 to 8 hours a day and go into 4 states of REM, you have found the fountain of youth. That is the fountain of youth. Because while you're sleeping, you're repairing and you're regenerating. It doesn't happen while you're awake. So if you don't get a good night's sleep, you're not going to, it doesn't make a difference what you take. If you take ginseng or telomerase TA or whatever, or B complex, it's not going to do anything for you unless you sleep well. And how do you sleep well? Well, that's eliminate all the electromagnetic fields in your home. Actually, put a circuit breaker in your bedroom and sleep that way. But also, it's what you eat at night. And if you eat some form of protein and fat, especially fats, the key is lipids, my friend. That is the most important nutrient. If you were here when Stephanie Snednoff spoke, and she was right on, cholesterol sulfates are key factors in all health because they're part of the cell membrane. There's 2 things that allow the cell membrane to function, the extracellular matrix. There's a woman named Minna Bissell, B-I-S-S-E-L, here across the bay. I think you should get her, Susan. She's phenomenal. Had a long talk with her. She's at Lawrence Livermore Lab. She has found that the extracellular matrix is the key in controlling all cancer cells, all aging. It is these nutrients that support the extracellular matrix. That's what Linus Pauling said. And I had a chance to chat with Linus before he died because he was going to come and get treated for prostate, and I told him not to fly, and he flies a lot, and that radiation causes the cancer cells to just migrate. There's nothing you can do after that. So the extracellular matrix is controlled by predominantly fats, cholesterol sulfates, and glycoprotein. What is the major glycoprotein? Come on. You've been hearing Steve and myself talk about this for years. I learned this from working with the Raiders and Rams. The head of the orthopedic department there that works with all the teams there says, I reversed my disc problems by taking Knox gelatin. That's what opened me up. Collagen is the predominant major molecule for the cell membrane. It's right there in literature. It's not omega-3. As a matter of fact, there is not any omega-3s found in the cell membrane. It's all palmitic acid, and stearic acid, and saturated fats. That's why coconut and MCT oil and butter and whole milk and whole everything is better for you. One of the things that I'm doing right now, I'm working a lot with dementia and depression. And I've learned something from a lot of people in the field of lipid chemistry and cardiology. And I talked to one guy who specializes in that area. And they're finding that if you have high LDLs and high triglycerides, you are more prone to having panic attacks, anxiety disorders, and depression. It's all controlled by those 2 things. And PI1. All individuals who have depression or who have suicidal tendencies or who have emotional problems have a very high Pi1. That is well documented in science. Dr. Rafe Tawako, who is the world leading expert in the field of Pi1 research, who I spent the last 5 years working with, has shown that in all the blood tests, that's the major marker he does. If you lower Pi1, LDLs, and triglycerides, increase HDL, and keep your cholesterol above 200, you can actually treat virtually every disease known to man. That's how simple it is. So, I always like 200 and more. Every cancer patient I've treated, and I've treated 1,400 patients in the last 10 years, and I work with the National Cancer Research Foundation named Fred Eichhorn, and if you don't know Fred Eichhorn, you should look him up. We worked together in developing a nutritional program. It was his brilliant idea that came up with this program, and all I did is I added some nutrients to it. And we found that all cancer patients that he had blood reports back were in the 120s, 130s, and 160s. They were always low. Everyone in the last 20 years, I started looking into cancer because of my father. I lost my father to cancer. The first guy I talked to was Ernest Krebs. He was the only one out there that really could give me answers. Then I went into and I looked at John Mamichaels, an immunologist and Acevedos, and Ralph Moss, and Gumberg out of Germany, who is a genius beyond a genius, who taught William F. Koch everything, and other people like that. And that's what it is look at the lipid markers, and that's how you control aging. And I talked to a lot of doctors there who walked by. They didn't even know this. And they went back and looked at the literature and came back to me and said, this is absolutely right. So that is a secret, and I think that's what you have to look at. Rather than going into supplements, look at how your diet is so important and getting plenty of rest at night.
Just to piggyback on that, one of the important lipid markers is
It's love.
I can love and talk at the same time.
I do
I'm a
lipid
woman.
markers for love.
I'm a woman. I can do everything at the same
So-
time. Anyway, one of the important
Oxytocin.
things with lipids is the number of small particles and the size of them. The smaller the particles, the more risky it is for heart disease in the future. So anyway, now I'd like to introduce Adria Breyer, who is a member of the Health and Medicine Advisory Committee of the Commonwealth Club, and she will introduce our speaker.